What is up, all you good people? Tom from Florida back with you. First of all, thank you for your thoughts, those that have reached out and commented on where I've been. I'll be honest with you, I've been having a fabulous time in meditation, study, exploration of other dimensions. So I'll talk briefly about that today. I'll be honest, when I started this channel, it was really an intent to share the overwhelming awakening that began really with reading Neville Goddard's materials and testing it for myself and studying it very deeply, contemplating. And I continue to almost daily. I intersperse some other reading. I read the Bible a lot. Some other guys that I'm going to talk about here. But it was such an overwhelming occurrence of things happening in my life that I honestly didn't plan for it to be a regular thing, quite frankly. It turned into that. But as you'll find, much like the ocean tides, there's high tides and low tides and ebbs and flows in between. So quite frankly, I just needed a season for myself. And I'm not in this to become a YouTube personality in the least bit or to magnify myself per se. Really was in the hopes of reaching someone. The more the merrier, of course, but even one person who can find hope and encouragement, know they're not alone. As much as I've needed to know that too at various times in my life, it was my intent to hopefully encourage someone else in that all you need is yourself and that great God that dwells within you, who is that being that is your very self. And when Neville says that consciousness is the one and only reality, I'm finding out over and over again, he's right, it's true. And I've got to tell you, you can only experience it for yourself. Myself and nobody else can give you that experience. You have to experience it for yourself. So you'll read the Bible where Jesus is doing amazing things and all of a sudden, poof, he's just gone. He's in the mountains somewhere with the Father. And I used to wonder about that. Why didn't he just change the whole wide world back then? Why would he go touch a city? It says he would heal them all and then he's just gone. So don't count it a strange thing if I just disappear from time to time. I am not your answer. I hate to tell you, I will let you down. I just will. I am not a great friend. I'm just not. I'm a family man. I love my family. I spend time with them. I'm dedicating deep times to exploring this radical realm of dreams and the spirit and vision and the awakening of imagination, truly. And it's the most exhilarating, wonderful thing I've ever known. And so I'm encouraging others to do the same and to know that the Bible is the greatest book ever written. And it's all vision. I understand what Neville meant when he said that. It's really, all of it is vision. And when you begin to experience the other dimensions for yourself, it all starts to click. It all starts to fall into place. And it's real exciting. It's very jarring still. Some of it's very radical. Just to give you an idea, partly an idea of why I don't post all the time. I'm still figuring this stuff out myself, guys. Part of the purpose of this channel is to bring like-minded individuals together where we can encourage others. Some of you that have experienced the promise Neville talks about, I would still love to hear from you. I get the idea that some that think they're the most awakened seem to shun people that aren't. And do you know what? It's the same sin as the Christian circles that I come from that judge others who aren't Christians. So I have to tell you, if you're not consumed by infinite love and a desire to see others experience this love, then you're not as awakened as you think you are. I've got to tell you that. If you still have criticisms and judgments looking down upon others, you haven't arrived. In fact, I don't think we're ever going to arrive. I think it's an infinite level. And I know Neville talks about the very end, and you experience David, who is the sum total of all of humanity fused into one. And then and only then do you know that you're the Father. Listen, I accept that on that level, but it's hearsay until I experience it. And all of this is hearsay until you experiencing it, from manifesting a little thing like a tennis ball or climbing a ladder up to healing miracles that I've been experiencing. I'm currently in faith for money miracles. Listen, I'm human just like the rest of you. And the marvel is that we're also made in the image of God. We are superhuman. The being that dwells within you is God himself. And so when Neville and Jesus quote the Psalms where it says that ye are gods, nonetheless you will die like men, realize the implication there is that you are not men. You are something other than man. You are a new creation altogether, Paul calls it in 2 Corinthians chapter 5. You're a new creation. Old things have passed away. All things are become new. Or like he says in Galatians chapter 2, it's not even I who live anymore. There's this understanding that you're not who you think you are. You're infinitely greater than you think you are. So I said that to say I've been testing out these things for myself and experiencing them on various levels for myself. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about and why I'm hesitant to talk about it, because it's just, to the outsider, it'll seem very strange and unusual. And yet I feel like part of the mandate for me, part of my mission, if you will, in starting this channel was just to be blatantly honest and pull back the veil of who I most am and what I'm experiencing, even at the risk of alienating myself from family and friends in the world, because to me it seems unusual. And yet the beautiful thing is some of you are reaching out that are having the same experiences, and I'm finding others that are finding the same experiences. And so that's amazing in itself to me and beautiful in itself. But just to give you an idea, like what kind of things I'm experiencing, and you will too along this path of awakening, is the realm of thought. And I understand why Jesus is always bringing it back to this realm of thought. As soon as you lust after another, it's as if you committed the act. As soon as you hate another, it's as if you've already murdered them. He's always bringing it back to this mental level. And so why religion will never get it right in trying to accomplish things through flesh and blood and external and ceremonial means. It is not that. Because thoughts are things, and on the fifth dimensional level, thoughts instantly manifest into things, into creations, sometimes things that you do not want to experience on this level. The fact that the 3D level of time and space has a time-lapse shadow effect, why a vision has an appointed time and it doesn't materialize instantly, is actually extreme mercy and grace. Because if you instantly manifested some of the thoughts and feelings and the attitudes and the moods that we carry about, it would be hell. And so I want to say, forgive me if this is wrong, I want to say the game dude, one of my subscribers, what's up, brother man? I think it was you who asked about, well, what about hell then? When Jesus talks about the story of the rich man who was in torment and begging for the beggar who we saw, who was in Abraham's bosom, to give him even just a drop of water. What about that story from Jesus? Listen, the Bible is all vision. Everything Jesus says is parable. He's telling people to gouge out eyes if it causes them to sin, to cut off hands if it causes them to sin. He's talking about things on the mental level, because in the fifth dimension, or in the kingdom of heaven, however you want to view that, the super conscious realm, the subconscious on the individual level, however you view and understand that, you got to understand these are tangible things that instantly manifest. And if they instantly manifested here, you would destroy yourself. And so there's this beautiful process of growth, just like in the realms of nature where trees grow, grass grows. If you just stare at it, it doesn't look like much is happening, but life is happening. Little babies turn into toddlers, turn into children, turn into adolescents to adults. Listen, there's a process of growth, and that is a mercy as such that you learn incrementally. That's for your benefit, right? It's a mercy kind of a thing. So I've been experiencing that, though. It does intersect this 3D level of time and space. Just as one example, just to give you, I was in Walmart the other day. I'm out running errands today, by the way, sitting here in the middle of a few errands. And I thought I'd just stop and make this video to catch up, because I do feel obligated to do that for some of you. And I was in Walmart, and I won't name the type of vehicle, but a particular vehicle pulled up next to me, in the spot next to me, that I knew to be, who I consider like a local celebrity type. Doug Flutie is from our town here. He is known in the college football circles as having perhaps the all-time greatest Hail Mary pass. Those of you that know Doug Flutie know he's like a living legend type. Well, he's from my town here, and I've bumped into him maybe a couple of times in the 8 years that I've now lived here in Florida. And I always kind of just give him space. I kind of nod at him. I've seen him in the, we've surfed together one time, and I kind of said, what's up out there? But I don't, bother him or try to encroach on him. So anyway, I recognized what I know to be his vehicle pulling up next to me, and I got excited. I thought, oh, maybe that's Doug, and I'll just say hi briefly and say what's up. And it was not him. It was an older gentleman who got out of the vehicle, and I didn't really think much of it. Well, I had forgot something at Walmart that my wife was considerate enough to remind me of, that was on my honey-do list. And I went back to Walmart maybe an hour and a half later. I am in the, I'm getting paint supplies for my daughter for something at school. And you already know where this story is going, don't you? A gentleman walks behind me, didn't pay much attention. He's standing 5 feet from me, just perusing the same craft aisle in Walmart. And I look over, and who is it? There's Doug Flutie standing next to me just an hour and a half later. Now, you might call that coincidence, but I want to tell you that kind of stuff happens over and over and over. It's an understanding of the power of creation that comes from your own realm of thought. The events and the circumstances and the people that you are encountering today is the result of something that you have once planted with an imaginal seed. And it is hard to accept the responsibility of the fact that you are the cause of the phenomena of your life. I know it's a hard fact to accept, and it's Neville's brilliance in causing us to test it. I get emails from a lot of you that have not seen results immediately, and lo and behold, weeks or months later, you're experiencing the result of it. Sometimes it's in a skewed light, meaning it's not the exact way that you imagine it, but it's in an enhanced, appropriate way, like a meaningful way, if that makes sense. And so you might say, well, bumping into Doug Flutie after you thought about him was just a fluke. Listen, this kind of stuff happens over and over. I'm going to give another example so as to hopefully help some of you in a way that I wish I was helped. And I'm finding you've got to trust your own intuition to lead you and guide you to realize you're on the right path for where you need to be. I've talked briefly about these very strong and intense vibrations that you will experience reverberating through your skull. Remember, Christ is buried in the place of Golgotha, the place of the skull. And those of you, I've heard from some of you have commented publicly on here that were brave enough to do so, that you too experience these vibrations. Well, I want to tell you they've been increasing in me almost to a point where they are so strong and intense, they almost disturb me. But yet it's not unpleasant, it's actually pleasurable. I would say it culminated with a climax with an event that I described back in March in the spring, where I had this explosion of a mystical experience, but in my waking moments, I was able to walk around my hotel room where I was staying while I experienced this. And I experienced both a vision and a physiological interaction all in the same instance. It was very unusual, very profound, the most intense, what I would just call a God encounter that I've ever had. So anyway, these kinds of vibrations have continued just like pulsating. And so I inquired within myself about it. And I talked with my wife about it, which is, by the way, another symptom, I guess you would say, of this process of awakening is the only way I can describe it, where you have no desire to watch TV, movies, Netflix, social media, any of that. It's like a complete withdrawal. Again, that's part of the reason why I don't feel compelled to make videos, quite frankly, even, or get involved. I have no desire to become a YouTube persona of any kind, because I just literally have an insatiable desire to meditate, pray, study deeply in Scripture, in Neville, some other people who I'm going to talk about here in a moment. And so I was talking about this with my wife, this intense vibrating and what it's like. The very next morning, in my morning, what I would just call my devotional meditational time, coming out of some meditation, I started reading some Neville, a very obscure lecture that I had never read before. I thought I had read them all, and I hadn't read this one. I'll link it below if I can find it. Something about your purpose revealed, something to that effect. And he literally talks about speaking with another lady about the intense vibration that pulsates, and he likened it unto a woman in travail about to give birth. That's the only way I could describe it. It was like Neville was describing to a T what it is that I'm currently experiencing, if that makes any sense. And it made me feel better. It gave me some solace and consolation, like, thank God I'm not, going through something crazy. And so I hope that encourages some of you out there that are experiencing the same kinds of things. But listen to this, to take it to another level, as you need to, again, just there's no one to turn to but yourself. Listen, I can't help you except to point the way to your own self. Meditate, go within, use the Bible as a guide, use Neville as a guide. It is the truth. So in the way that it comes about, in the same way that I found Neville, that you have found him, that you found my channel, I bumped into Mr. Robert Monroe, the founder of the Monroe Institute, who is just blowing me away with the way that he is able to almost scientifically analyze states of consciousness and define them. And it has been so wonderful and refreshing for me personally to read. I just finished today his book called Journeys Out of the Body, I believe it's called. And my God, listen to this. Some of you that know my personal journey with IBS and food allergies and very intense cramping in the abdominal area, which for me lasted years. I am reading Bob's story, and he goes through the exact things that I've been experiencing. He calls it in the solar plexus region of his being, which some believe to be like the physiological and spiritual intersection point for your individualized consciousness or body. Anyway, it was very wonderful, quite frankly, in reading it, because he goes through, sorry, somebody's beeping me in here. Anyway, Bob's journey is he had these intense abdominal crampings, same as me. This intense vibrational state that came upon him, same as me. And what I love about Bob is he understood through process. He just went through a period of 12 years or so from the time that he wrote this book and lots of experimentation, the ability to control it. And I flashed back to Neville's lectures that kind of clicked in me, where Neville talks about being able to center this vibration. And it started to activate within me past dreams I had where I was actually out of my body and conscious. It triggered some what Bob dubs a false awakening, where you believe that you're awake in the morning and you go about your day, but you find that you're actually still in a dream. And it triggered some things in me back from my adolescent days and my teenage years, where I had some of these very powerful interactions where I thought I was awake, but I was actually still dreaming. And you feel stuck in the dream and find it difficult to get back, find your way back to your body. Like it triggered all these things that I didn't even remember until just now as I read Bob's book. So very powerful stuff, unusual stuff. Frankly, guys, I don't understand it all. So I've been in this period of the last few weeks of just exploring it, testing it, contemplating, dwelling upon it, praying, right? All that stuff. So that's why I'm not quick to make videos. I don't understand it all myself. That's what I've been going through. Deeply in faith for certain things in my life that I'm not privy to talk about. It's just personal stuff. I'm just believing for stuff, massively big stuff, and I'm in the midst of it. That place that many of you are, where it feels like a paradox to say this, solidly real, but in the spiritual dimension. It's solidly real, but yet it hasn't materialized yet in the physical world. That's just the nature of this time delay effect. Listen, the vision has an appointed hour. Remain loyal and faithful to the vision. It's a place of imagination plus faith. I don't know what else to tell you other than that. So turn within yourself. Trust that infinitely, incredibly, beautifully, wonderful being that you really are. It's your truest self. Go in search of your true identity. That's all I can tell you. In fact, it reminds me of just a dream I had last night. I was in another place looking for my wallet that I lost. And I opened up the wallet and had ID in it, but it wasn't myself, it was somebody else. Listen, this is the search we're on. Go in search of your identification of who you really are, is all I can tell you. Trust yourself, trust your intuition. I'm going to talk more about that here later to come, because I have some ideas about what I think that means. Frankly, I just need time to really sort it out and flesh it out, if that makes sense. I'm not hasty to write my book. My book is still being written, honestly, as I'm discovering this stuff myself. I have a deep sense of peace that all is well, all is exactly as it is supposed to be, both for myself and all of you. Just know that you are absolutely perfect and beautiful. I've seen just little glimmers of it, little glimpses of eternity, I would say, where I just understand and know everything is perfect. Even some of you that have heard deeper descriptions about my mystical experience and how we're all connected by thought, like these fiber optic strands. Bob Monroe describes in detail that exact thing. It was so refreshing just to read someone else experiencing the same things I have. Hopefully in turn I'm doing the same for you, encouraging some of you to know that this is real. You need not be afraid of it, even though it is jarring and unusual and strange. It's also magnificent and it's wonderful, and it's what we were made for. Even if you don't know, as I don't know all what that means, how that fleshes itself out and what kind of work that means for me. I'm exploring and I'm touching. What does that mean? Do I go into a secular work, a sacred work? Do I start some kind of a spiritual center? Guys, I don't pretend to know. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, but I want to make sure it's right. You know what I mean? I want it to be the right thing. So pray and believe with me for that I would express myself in the appropriate ways as I ought. And I'm doing the same for you. I'm just intending and believing just great showers, just like the fountain behind me. I'm just believing for you a great springing forth of Christ himself, your truest expression of who you are, that infinite realm of life and love. I just pray it for you right now, every particle of your being to be flooded with God's divine presence, with wisdom that is well beyond this finite brain of mine to comprehend. But just by faith accepting, consider it a baptism, every particle of your being baptized in wisdom. And you can trust that. It cements you together in peace. You're joint and knit together, literally, in love and in peace. So trust that guiding wisdom and providence for your life. It'll lead you right into the right places at the right time with the right people. Accept that for yourself as I'm accepting it for myself. All right? I love you guys. Hang in there. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to bring you more. I can't honestly tell you when. Sometimes I feel like I can make videos every day, and sometimes I feel like I can never make another one again, and all is well. So I'm betwixt between the two, happily being content to be a hermit, and at the same time I could just go blow up and go try to change the world some way. And there's a tension in between all of that. I don't know what is right, but I'm searching it out. So that's all I can tell you. All is well. I love you guys. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.